Okay, Nikki says it's 7 p.m. I'll duly note that everyone is present. Mr. Metz, it's right here. If you'd like to sign it in, I grabbed it about 30 seconds early, and
Just see what happens.
I'll give you that window.
We're going to go back.
Anyone wishing to make comment this evening? If not, we'll move things right along. A couple of items that didn't make it to the agenda. I just want to acknowledge, you may hear more. We have a Government Finance Institute that's going to take place at the Plattsburgh Town Hall, Plattsburgh, New York. I've got the brochure if you want to see it. The New York State Government Finance Officers Association sponsors this. It's a fee of $95 for members, $170 for non-members. The beauty of this is, again, at Plattsburgh Town Hall, we've been really pushing these things. The savings to us in time and travel and lodging, not having to go to New York, Lake Placid, Albany, it doesn't matter. And I told Pat I would make sure everyone was aware that he played no small role in getting this here. If anyone wants to see it, I've got it.
Bernie, are we getting any type of discount with it being held here?
I don't know the answer to that question. I didn't ask, but I will. We're getting the discount of not having to pay that.
No, I get that, but I mean, when you're hosting it too,
Yep.
it would be a nice means to offset continuing.
Is there anybody in charge of checking for hotel rooms, stuff like that? It's just the overnight for some people, correct?
It certainly would. Registration, they provide for everything, of course, the continental breakfast, etc. There's a networking lunch. I'm just looking to see if they've indicated anything on here. They have not, so it would appear that it's up to everybody to call and get their own reservations. But I wouldn't jump into that for the same reasons you bring up. You know, I don't want to take responsibility on for this workshop and have our staff responsible to take 100 calls. I can't get a room and all that.
I get it. I was just
All right.
But I'll find out, because I think that's a good question, but no, it doesn't. But, and that's something else. You talk about, you know, impact of the economy. I mean, the room can't hold 300 people, but there'll be some people who may be in the town that wouldn't have been here otherwise. They may be at hotels, they may be in restaurants, that's all good stuff. In the same vein, just to share with you, we have a NYSERDA-sponsored workshop concerning solar energy. The title is Introduction to Solar Policy. The one on finance is October 29th, and the one on solar is October 16th, again, at the town of Plattsburgh. And I want to give some credit where it's due. Trevor Cole is the one who has pulled this together. And this is a workshop to help with policy development. It would be a workshop that would be appropriate for planners, code, zoning people, etc. We get all the same benefits. This one is a 8:30 to 12:30. They're wrapping it up before lunch. It's a little leaner than the one the state is putting on. I should say nice.
That would be one of the days that we're talking about also having the budget.
yeah.
It is, but if we do that, this is in the morning, there's no conflict. So my message is, and I asked Trevor, I told him again today that I expected him to communicate that, and I'd share his messages, but I want it to come from him so people know he pulled it together and he did it. We will be inviting, I'll be blasting this out to the supervisors in the county and so on. So hopefully we'll have a good show. And that's always the second part of things like this. If it's hard to get them to come here for all the reasons we all know. If they come and we have 12 people show, we're going to start going to Albany again. So we really have to encourage the other agencies to take advantage of something in their backyard. So I'm pleased for all that. Also, just a reminder, I did send
Both of those have costs, right?
the government finance, when I went through the cost, yes. The solar one, I'm not sure. I don't see anything about cost with this workshop on this flyer that I have. More information coming out. It's a good question, Tom. I'll find out, because I want to know. The other thing, just to mention briefly, as you know, we are sharing a table with the Development Corporation, the United Ways kickoff, et cetera, et cetera. I have one seat available. If anybody's interested, please let me know ASAP. First, let me know who gets the seat. This is September 12th. That's this Friday. It starts at 8 a.m. at Post 20. Now, to the regular agenda. And again, things change a lot from Friday when this goes out. I want to be sure that I know you have. I assume you have the JCEO letter? Okay. You, I'm sure, read it, and you saw what the request was. A couple of comments. In 2012 and in 2013, we contributed the same. As you may recall, we've been asked, of course, to increase it, and we've indicated that just wasn't possible. In fact, there have been some discussions about whether we should be helping that program or not, because about 4 or 5 miles down the road is the complete JCEO service offices, etc. We also contribute some in-kind resources, such as phone, electric, and heat. It's not I'll venture my opinion right away, it's not my opinion that we increase at all. It would be more of my opinion that we might consider decreasing or simply not being able to budget that any longer. I know the history. I went through this with Bruce Garcia a couple years ago. I know they have some numbers. It's clearly a convenience for the people that take advantage. It's a heck of an expense to save going a couple miles down the road to get the same thing. I think, but that's kind of a hard opinion for me, but that's where I'm at. I need some direction before I write a resolution.
I wrote down some of the same things that you had stated, Bernie, that, you know, we have building costs that are borne by the town, in-kind services being phone, heat, cleaning. A lot of times the buildings, especially one to make Courier, we rent that building out. It's income producing. I don't know why we're not charging rent, or at least telling JCO, this is what it would cost for if we were renting this building out for these number of hours every week. And say to them, you know, we're already contributing more than the $2,000 that you're asking us to increase our budget by. I don't think that we should be doing an increase. I really don't. I think we should probably be taking a look at it through buildings and grounds and find out what is this actually costing us on an annual basis.
Phone is about $21.59 a month. Electric is about $180.04. And
Those things
is
would
about
already be
87.
in existence, and we would be paying for those regardless.
No,
some
Tom,
of
if the
that.
building wasn't being used
The building is being used.
every day,
No, but I mean.
by who?
I don't know, but I know that I was told by the rec.
You'd maintain a level of heat.
That there was a good number of people that want to use that building.
Right. And again, I go back to what I was saying about the May Courier. May Courier, when we rent that out, there's a fee involved in that. It helps to offset the cost of the maintenance on the building, the heat to the building, and everything else. We even, our buildings and grounds went in there and made renovations to that building some time ago, because JCO used to be in a little cubbyhole area. They didn't like that. So there was a renovation that was done up there. None of that was ever charged to JCO. You know, they've gotten a good deal from the town for a good number of years. And I think it's time to just tell them that this is what the value is of the service that we're providing. So, you know, as far as asking us for additional money, take into account that we're already contributing a lot in kind services.
So nobody else contributes towards this.
Not this one.
And where do they go from there? There's no place there.
Margaret Street.
I think for me, you know, I see a great value in JCEO. You know, we all have, kind of the areas in the community that we contribute and, find our way to support, and especially with hunger and food in our region and stuff like that. At this time, I'm not in support of increasing it, but I certainly think from an accounting practice, we should be recognizing the contributions that we're making in kind. I think we need to know that from a budgetary standpoint, and then look at it further. But I don't think an increase. I think that there's a lot of things that we're going to continue to see flat. Unfortunately, I use the rec program as an example, that we're doing a lot more pay to play. And there are certain individuals that are limited with their income, and we're asking them to pay to play. There are other entities that do a great job beyond just JCEO. And yes, is it an inconvenience? Yes, do I wish we could do more? But there are other opportunities in the community to do that as well. So,
I just think the program has always been a great collaborative program between the town and JCE, and it has met a need for lower income people, and we have, a fair number of people that live in that area that can utilize those services, both in the Trudnos Mills area and then further over in Abenaki Trailer Park, etc. So I think, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it and you say, oh, here's what JCEO's getting. We can look at it and say, well, this is what the town gets. And I think both parties are benefiting. I for one would like to see us continue to support the program. I do, I think as we get into the budgetary process, we'll be in a better position to be able to see what we can or cannot do. But I'm not of a mind that hopefully I hope we don't have to cut this program. I hope that we'd be able to at least maintain the level that we have been at.
Just to be clear, I'm not in favor of shutting down that completely. I agree with you completely, Marty, but I think it's time to let JCO know that this is what we already provide. Yeah. And if we would be pleased to continue with the $18,920, but to increase it by $2,000 more, we're already contributing $2,000 more with the services we provide. And that's all I wanted to say.
And I think it needs to be clear of the scope of the support that we're giving. Mm-hmm. The in-kind is, very valuable to them and to us as well. And I would agree. I mean, I think it's a very worthy program. But let us understand the full scope of the support that we're giving, before we go into the budgetary season. So.
The last couple of years anyway, we passed this November, early December. I can draft something out so it's queued up and Pat has something to work with in the budget. I think what I'm hearing the consensus would be to maintain it at the current level, and certainly do a letter and a resolution that reflects on the comments I've made. But we don't need to pass that tomorrow.
No.
We just get it queued up, as I said, and attach the letter and go forward. Okay? Any other discussion on that? Next, I would ask Mr. Cashman if he could just give us an update on the evolving relationship with the SUNY Plattsburgh and the project out at the cable park.
Sure.
Can you tell me what CES is?
Yes, it's the Center for Earth and Environmental Science. We've been using CES because, well, it's a lot easier to say. But that group is building up interest with students. There are already a couple of faculty members that are starting to engage in the process. In fact, later on this week, I'll be meeting with one of the faculty members that is already going to be engaged in one of his courses to help develop the potential for a further relationship with a more substantial MOU and getting prepared for that capstone project and giving us some information. So they're out there, they're working. They're identifying, they're having lots of conversations. I know that a couple of faculty have reached out to Mel just for some additional information. They've been reading through the comprehensive land use document that the town has, and they've also read through pieces of the recreation master plan, so they're becoming more familiar with those documents as they develop their course material. So,
What might be some of the outcomes that we would get as a result of this testing?
some of the outcomes are going to be potentially a usage study. Who's out there using the trails, who's biking, what are, potentially for conflict management. Some trails might be used for walkers, some trails might be used for bikers, for example. The other thing is they're hoping to do some inventory of species. So, and I don't want to jump the gun because this may or may not be a recommendation by this group, but for example, they may want to recommend doing a nature trail of some sort, and that might become a nice little feather in our town's cap where people can go out and say, oh, that's a pine tree, and that's a such and such bush, and that's a, educational nature, but engaging at all that level. So I'm hopeful that they're going to be working on some interesting projects, but one of the more needed elements that kind of sparked this was doing some GIS mapping of the trails so that they're more easily identifiable, or identified, I should say, to be able to get folks out on those trails. So,
A variety of potential spin-offs, but I'm also excited that budget-wise, we may be looking for new intermunicipal shared service projects to meet some new mandates that could be coming around the corner. This may be a big one to help us with that.
I'll just put one other thing out there, which I think is one of those interesting footnotes on it is, a lot of times when folks think about our region as, Plattsburgh, going to Plattsburgh for the day, these college students are investing a fair amount of money within our region. They're shopping at Walmart, they're going to the mall, a variety of other places. I believe that this is a really unique opportunity for us to be supportive of their education, and then for them to kind of flow back and get some kind of on-the-job training and experiential learning opportunities that if they do a paper or they do a poster, or they're traveling to some conferences, that they then become ambassadors for the town when they're out and about doing some scholarly work too. So it's just a win-win-win situation.
Could this be limited just to Cadyville Park?
Is it limited? I don't think anything's potentially limited. I think we need
We
to.
have lots of things going on with trails, potential trails and everything else. I just wonder, if this is a possibility in the future, maybe not this time, but.
I'll tell you, for example, Tom, this deviates a little bit from what you're saying, but this group is really interested in the multi-year opportunities. That's one of the reasons that they're doing some studies, and they're going to be presenting to us a more developed MOU for us to consider. But I've also been doing a comprehensive course study over at SUNY Plattsburgh where there may be other points of collaboration. And as soon as I can get my hands on a course catalog over at Clinton Community College and some of the other colleges and universities, I'm going to look at that too. So, colleges and universities, have a wonderful level of resources that I think we could tap into.
Dr. Ettling, President Ettling, was at the Stretch Your Summer function this Saturday, and I know Mike was engaged. I chatted with him a little bit. I think he's also very supportive, and it's another nice chance for them to identify us for a variety of potential partnerships. We just can't lose on that. Thank you. Anything else from Mike about this event? We'll keep you tuned in, I guess, as it evolves, but it's happening, and we want to make you aware. Number 3, again, to make you aware, but this afternoon some things happened that changed. I would say at this point we don't need to have any discussion about the request for insurance. Some things have changed in that discussion. I've left a phone message. I wasn't able to get hold of Mr. Frenier to offer him some other suggestions. So, because of some changes today, I don't think that's a topic any longer. All right, everybody comfortable enough with that?
Yep.
Budget meetings, and I don't know, did Debbie copy the Association of Towns budget guide for you? Okay. There are some benchmarks in there that this time of,
I think it's same page.
I get the same page twice.
oh, there was a second page, I don't know what happened. I don't have multiple
I meant
copies.
page 8.
Is there something on the back?
I got 2 page eights.
Twice.
Yeah, me too.
Page 8's to the front and the back, okay. Well, you didn't miss a lot, you
You
want
don't
the
have the
second.
front and the back.
And actually, this was in your Association of Towns magazine anyway.
Did you get one?
I got the two guys.
Your magazine, I don't recall which one I want to say last month has this.
Talk to towns.
Talk of the Towns. The calendar, of course, is some benchmarks we have to live and die by. Once we have this tentative budget delivered in place, that's the time at which we need to meet with our department heads. That is the time that we have open meetings where the public is invited to come to observe that process. We do have a public hearing later in the calendar when there can be questions on the preliminary budget as it's about to become the final. We adopt the final budget. We need to nail some dates down. Now, I hadn't thought about it before, but these events I mentioned initially are part of where there gets to be a little concern. We remember when we used the basement and redid the court, we eliminated one of our large meeting room options. I have a double booking tomorrow because of the elections and a meeting that's going to take place. It's very important, and we're going to be finding ourselves in a corner somewhere. Not ideal situation, and there has to be a presentation device as well. So I went through, I met with Mel, I sat down with Pat. We tried to find a time frame that worked and fit into the budget calendar. And then I found available dates with Aaron, I guess. I didn't do that one with Mel. So we could book some time, and that's what I've done that I gave you. Now we can flex with that a little. But we have to be careful as well with the evening use of the building. But Mike presented a very good question about wanting to do it in the evening. We've had a little chit chat.
Offer a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think of doing wrestling?
For tomorrow? I haven't yet because I'd like to keep it here. I'm going to do a final count of numbers. About 4:45, I got 2 more names. So that, I mean, we may, I think that's an option. For budget meetings or for tomorrow?
No, for one.
Yeah, that may be an option.
You know, the people you were looking
I'm looking at 8 to 12 when I left here. Yep. So we've got a tentative, and I've got it on the agenda because we have got to nail that down for all the obvious reasons. I've got a draft resolution, I think, with those dates. I didn't pull them up front. And that is the 15th, 16th, and 17th. We think we could do it, but we always need alternative dates just because. And we've got those as well. Now, we can play inside of that a little if you want.
Can you run those dates by me?
The 15th, 16th, and 17th from, I've just booked the room from 1 to 5. I don't know if it's available after 5. It may be. I just don't know that it is. I don't have the calendar. I should have had it with me. We've got a little time. This is October, but we've got to make a decision because of facilities as much as anything. 15th, 16th, and 17th, I've got 1 to 5. I think my preference based on experience is that's as good as anything. I don't think having 3 more nights in everybody's night schedule is going to be as fruitful. I just don't. It's tough. There are lots of after-hour things. I saw most of you Saturday, and we were tied up all day Saturday too.
Bernie, I mean, I certainly get where folks have come over the conversations, but I just want to reiterate that, you know, to me, the budget process is probably the biggest thing that we have, you know, in our portfolio of responsibility, as well as the members of our staff. You know, school boards, the ZBA, the planning board, our own meetings are in the evening hours, largely accommodating for the public to attend. Whether we have one person or many people in the room, to me that's justification alone. I'll put a footnote on it as well. I work a more traditional 9-to-5 type job as well. And you know, I use that as an example in engaging with people before people have said that. You know, there's a difference between, you know, the one budget hearing where people feel as though, you know, it's their one opportunity to get out there and express their opinion, but people may feel more comforted by the fact that if they're able to see, engage, experience, and see the process going on. So part of it's the transparency factor, but you know, I don't think anybody should have to worry about missing one of the presentations with any of the departments, especially where the tax cap continues to be something that we are really going to make sure that we're going to stay under. I mean, every department, every line item on the budget is critical for us to make sure that we are identifying the key areas to have a good budget to manage. So that's where I come from. You know, one voice. Certainly, I know that I was one person that advocated for some change in the regional meetings and stuff like that. Didn't see a huge increase in our attendance, but I feel comforted by the fact that, you know, sometimes you do things more for the personal ethic of things than you necessarily get rewarded with the attendance of people. Already thinking of that next year. Side note, why not do them at the fire departments? They have the marquees that, you know, remind people where the meetings are. Some people haven't even been to our rec buildings, but that's a side note. So
I kind of agree with Mike that we should move them closer to the end of the day, even after hours. Department heads, we don't ask a lot from them as far as, you know, giving us an extra hour here and there. I don't think it's a lot to ask from them. They probably won't see it the same way, but you know what? On that day, they come in an hour late, 2 hours late. If they really don't want to donate an hour of their time. Again, I think that we want to be as transparent as possible. We want to make it as easy for the public to be there as we can. I just jotted down, Bernie, keeping it the 15th, 16th, and 17th, and running the meetings from 3 till 6. Again, some of our departments, I think the public would be bored to tears to sit down and hear Ricky Collins present his budget, because it's kind of a no-brainer. Jackie Blues, the same thing. It's kind of a
They're 10 minutes.
right,
Done.
right. So you know, if we scheduled those at the 3 o'clock hour, I don't even think Mike would mind missing a couple of those if he couldn't make it for 3 o'clock.
I wouldn't mind missing them.
I know, but you know, the others that are a little bit more
Have them later.
meat on the bones, have those later in the evening so that they're there. If the public wants to attend, they can attend. And this, if nothing else, would be a test for moving forward. If we're well visited, good. If we're not, then maybe we don't want to do it moving forward. We've moved meeting times around. Used to be, we've had them earlier, we've had them later, and it did make a bit of difference. So we ultimately put them down at a time that was more suitable for us.
I think the toughest nut is for a counselor who has a traditional job.
Yes.
And you want to be here. You need to be here. What about a 3 to 5:30, 3 to 6 o'clock, 6:30?
I'll say something shocking. Unlike Congress, I'm willing to compromise. No, you know, would I like it more traditional hours? Sure. I think that we need to make sure that we are, you know, putting those heavier budgets on the back end.
Yep.
I think it's very important for folks to have a better opportunity for them to see this process. You know, we often talk about why aren't, you know, not poking at anyone here, but, you know, why aren't young professionals or other folks engaging in the process? Well, the reason that they're not participating in certain levels of civic work or, you know, involving themselves in politics and stuff like that, they have a certain burden in their work and their job. So by being flexible allows for families and other people of different means to participate. So I could see that compromise, and I'd be okay with 3, and hopefully we can change it next year.
If we went 3 to 6 for those 3 dates, I'm sure between 5 and 6, we can get the larger departments in easily. I mean, highway, water, sewer, I mean, there's the 2 big ones. Building and grounds.
Recreation.
We just took
That's it.
meetings that were gonna go from 1 to 5, and you're gonna squeeze them in 3 to 6. What makes,
Well, I just
3 to 6.
grabbed 1 to 5 just to get a big block, lock up the room, and
Yeah, I
Then
think
we'll
we
have a
discussed that the
conversation. We
last
don't
time,
need all
Marty, I
that.
kind of pointed out that, we don't have that many departments. Even if we were to slot an hour for each department, we don't have 16 or 12 departments
Yeah.
that we're meeting with. So, to have
3 to
4
6 is
hours,
fine.
4 hours open for the departments we have was overkill as it was. This is more, 3 hours, 3 nights has 9 departments. I think that covers everybody and still gives us a little bit of
well,
wiggle
that
room.
covers everybody at an hour department. You're not going to
No,
deal with Ricky for an hour.
no.
But you may have some that go a little bit
We don't want to
more.
sit in a room with Ricky for an hour.
We might.
I think the other part to it is we have the alternate dates if needed as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some flexibility.
But we need to advertise this, which is as critical as,
I agree.
number 2 critical. One, we have to have our own room available to us, and we have to advertise. So are we agreement that we would go 3 to 6? We can start early if we have to.
You'll have to check the schedule and see if somebody's scheduled for 5.
Oh, yeah, I gotta make sure people are here, et cetera.
And I feel that a couple departments sometimes take more than an hour.
No. At that point, I don't think so.
Well, I do.
It's
are you
gonna happen.
talking 15th, 16th, 17th?
Correct.
17th is when we have the nicer group coming in, from 2 to 4.
Yep, and that's not gonna change. So we're not gonna use that time.
17th out of there.
Well, Fox
Well, no,
7th.
they're coming, in fact, I talked to them today, they're talking about maybe we should start a little earlier. Maybe that day we start our meetings at 4:30. Doesn't take it out, the important part is that latter part of the day anyway. We'll work with it.
Just, we don't want to advertise that day from 3 to 6 if we're not going to be starting until 4:30.
Well, we can, and the advertisement has to say, I mean, once we put this together, we could get ahead of ourselves and get behind.
You can put something.
There's no
in the paper that
guarantee
says,
there's gonna be a
call
meeting.
for specific times or something, because,
I'm,
it's not gonna, we can't possibly say exactly what time we're gonna meet. We have to make arrangements with each department head, we have to make arrangements for the building, we have to make,
yeah, that's.
you've gotta
what
have
we
a
always-
variety of times. and
You have to set a framework.
You have a
We
range.
just set a framework.
But the 17th, we could still have, take advantage
Okay.
of something after 4:30. Those are the big ones you want to do later. So we will work with 3 to 6. We'll start trying to nail down a tentative schedule and start to flush out a resolution.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, your concern is honorable. I guess after nearly 10 years now, I'm more practical than I was then. I get real.
I tried getting them to do this for a long time, didn't happen.
Well, and will there
was
be
my
a
doubt.
change? What I don't want to do is sit around the table on something as critical as budget with a group of people that are tired, hungry, frustrated. It doesn't promote good decision making. Number 5, I don't think is going to take place because Dr. Klaus indicated to me he may need to reschedule again. He indicated still some interest in talking to the board about the process. We're not real sure where we're at right now for Crab Island fireworks. Ricky has been doing the paperwork, and I've indicated to Dr. Klaus we've had the conversation. We've looked at alternatives. There aren't any. One of the other complicating factors with this one this week is that if it takes place on Crab Island, DEC must give some permission. It was mentioned by someone to someone with some authority, that's a lot of vagueness, that if the alternative is on a barge, because of weather conditions that would force that, then the Coast Guard's got to get involved. So it's gotten more and more complex. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ricky has the paperwork pretty well in place that we would need in a normal request other than the fee, which no one has been forthcoming with. I mentioned last time, I'll just remind you, one of my conversations with with John Rock from Post 1619 was about the event being in the town. It's a community event, and, you know, the good doctor paid his fee once. You know, is there some way that fee could be a contribution for Battle of Plattsburgh events in the town of Plattsburgh by the municipality? That's not going to happen, I guess. So that's still a bit contentious, to use a nice word, and that takes place in about 3 days. Ricky, is there anything I'm missing?
No.
What focus?
Other than the fact I'm gonna call him again tomorrow to reiterate the drawing here.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, my recommendation would be to send that to DC and let them react to it. That's what they gave you. If they approve it, they approve it. If they don't, they don't.
I'll do that.
If they do, then we have the issue with the fee.
I'll send them the last 2 pages of what he sent me, and then I'll send it to them. It'll be in their ball game.
And then is the liability reasons we can't do that ourselves?
No, not at all. The insurance is there, everything's in place. It's just the town's fee for the process. And there was some discussion that this is one of those events. For example, I don't think the city of Plattsburgh charges for the DPW, the police overtime and so on when they have the parade. And that was a discussion. Could the town waive that fee this time because of this event on September 11th in the town?
Why can't?
I guess you weren't here. We had that discussion. The board was pretty adamant that the fee is the fee, you pay the fee, and that's the end of it.
Well, I think it's, you know, this is a major event happening in the town as well as in the city, and I think that we should have been part of this, the Battle of Plattsburgh event. I know that before we were not allowed to participate with other municipalities unless it was a joint thing. We couldn't contribute money towards something else. This is happening in the town. This is one thing we could do. So that's one thing.
And I'll just reiterate what I said when we made the discussion, and that is that the fee was set to cover our employees' time, the town clerk's time in putting this together. And if you're gonna waive it for one special event, you could be asked to waive it for every special event. You can't keep making exceptions to the rules. Is Ricky working less hard on this because it's for the Battle of Plattsburgh, or is his time worth less because it's for the Battle of Plattsburgh? The fee was established, Tom, to cover Ricky's time and Ricky's hours that's put into the permitting process. That's why
Yeah, but I say we should have finances to help celebrate this particular event.
And we should look at that at budget time.
And that's why we should. I'm sorry I wasn't part of the previous discussion.
Well, we have a community fund, and we could pay ourselves because this is a community event. And as crazy as that sounds, we charge ourselves for water when we pay ourselves and so on. It makes, keeps the process.
What's the?
That's
remind me
one
of the actual
thing,
fee again?
Rick, what is
$250.
That's what I thought.
That's one thing we could use our community fund for, fireworks for the community in the town of Plattsburgh. You are able to preserve the fee and have a contribution to the event. And I'm a little soft on that one this time, I'll be honest with it. But, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, the only way I'd approve that, Bernie, if it was made specific for the 2014 Battle of Plattsburgh.
200th anniversary.
200th
Would you agree to do it every 200 years?
Sure, you can do it in 200 more years.
I mean, that's the thing that does make this unique, and it's not like the Winter Carnival, and it's not like fair, and it's
I
not like
understand, but you're
Columbus.
gonna have to be specific
This
as to
is the
why
200th anniversary.
why we're
and it's-
paying ourselves the fee.
It's the 200th anniversary, and it is an event that's taking place in the town of Plattsburgh. We did some things for Halsey's Court. We invested more than that to move the monument, put the pavers, put the fence up, on and on.
That was for us, that wasn't for a private individual. This
Well-
fireworks, somebody's getting paid for the fireworks.
Correct.
You don't think they're donating?
Excuse me,
No,
that's my question. Do we know that the gentleman is being paid to?
I was told
To the
he's being
fireworks.
paid, but I was told by him he's not being paid his total cost for his
I don't
display.
care. Part cost, total cost, it's all,
There is a
that
fee.
gets very hairy. If the man is being paid, he pays the fine, he pays the fee. It's as simple as that, in my opinion. Okay? I don't, if the man's being paid, he pays the fee. If he were gratuitously doing this, and we were saying you gotta pay a fee, then I would say, hey, wait a minute, we ought
But
to-
I think if he were here, I think what he'd tell you is the fees being paid doesn't cover his cost for all of the fireworks that he has to purchase. I can't, I mean, I'm not in that game, so I can't argue.
You can't be a little bit pregnant, you're getting paid or you're not getting paid.
I move that we waive the fee for the
Listen.
200th anniversary of Town of Plattsburgh 2000.
Oh, we have a motion. We have to,
Can you repeat the motion, please?
Move that we waive the fee for the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Plattsburgh celebration.
we have a second on,
Fireworks at Crab Island.
I'll second it for the purposes of discussion.
okay,
you
Mike
want to start the
second.
discussion?
Yeah. So, just having done some quick math there, that's about $50 for each of us type of thing. To me, the bigger part to it is what Marty said is if he is just taking in enough money to pay for the shelves, you know what I mean, to pay for the resources, I could get that. If he's taking a money off the top of that for some type of administrative blah blah blah, I'm not in support of that.
This isn't Joe Lunchbucket.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
not. I'm not saying. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying more from the, to keeping it isolated to the item at hand. Not looking at the personalities, but looking at it. If someone were to make a donation of, hey, I'm just looking for the money to cover the cost of the product, I get that. But
Going back to what we had discussed previously, you said we have funds in line items for community events, correct?
Yes,
The only way I would support this is not a waiving of it, but it's a definitive contribution to a commemorative event taking place in the town of Plattsburgh, and be specific that it's the 2000.
and you'd be paying that to ourselves. you
We'd be
realize
paying,
that?
I understand that, but the fee, the fact that there was a fee imposed has to stay in place. Where the money comes from, it can come from Dr. Klaus, it can come from Tom Wood, it can come from the town of Plattsburgh. There's a fee because Ricky had to involve himself in time, that's why the fee was established. We can't cast that aside for anything else. That's an expense. But I would only support it if we were taking it from what we've already got budgeted and making it clear that this is for a single time event.
it wasn't budgeted originally though. That's to me.
I think it's money that's been carried, I'm sorry, I shouldn't interrupt. It's money that's been carried over for years and years. And years.
Yes, that pool doesn't have a sub-list of targeted. It's just available during the year when there are appropriate, could be banners, whatever. I really see all the sides, I truly, truly do. And I've often used that little bit, you can't be just a little bit pregnant. You either are or you aren't. You either have a fee or you don't, and that's the way it is. I suspect it'll happen
applaud
with or without
somebody
this.
who wants to make an issue a principle or whatever. What we're dealing with here is a man who wants to make an issue of principle over $250 and deny the Legion the fireworks on Crab Island over the $250? And I'm supposed to cave in on that? No thank you. Okay? I mean, I'm not gonna, you know, he may want to be the bully on the street, but I'm not going to.
Any other discussion? We have got a motion and a second. If not, Rick, we're gonna need a roll call. Are you gonna, you got a
Yep,
paper
yep.
there you can keep score on?
Yep. Ready? Thomas Wood,
What number?
Oh,
298?
uh,
298?
it will be whatever the next number is, and that would
Yep.
appear to be 298. Good question, Doug.
Passing that before all the, after all of that?
Well, we can do that before. If the sequence isn't anything crucial.
298 is the next open.
Let's
Next
do it.
open
I
one.
put it on two.
Next open
298?
numbers.
Yeah, we gotta go with the next. I'm not gonna renumber all the others.
Yep, yep.
It's just out of
Okay,
order.
just
All right.
so I know.
Okay. Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manick,
No.
Michael Cash.
No.
Gerard Riverdeck,
No.
Bernie Bassett.
As small as it is, this is a tough one for me because I opened my mouth to, we would look at this. I've always tried to support the majority in this case, but I'm still going to go with where I initially said that I'd like to find a way. I would vote yes, the motion doesn't carry. It's the end of that discussion.
Rennie, I would just put a footnote out there, I'm willing to donate $50 on a personal note outside of the spec. I mean,
That's not the point of it. The point of it is that the town supports activities. The town supports activities such as this that promote the area and promote the town of Plattsburgh, and that's the only reason that I would make a motion like I did.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't want to keep chewing on it, and I certainly would contribute 50 also, but I don't think that is the point. And I often equate it to, we've had no real cost in these festivities. We've done some things, and you're right, Halsey's is still ours, but we did it for that purpose. It's the reason we invested in it. It's a bit of a tough nut, and I don't think the $250 is going to cripple the Legion by any means, or eliminate Dr. Klaus from doing a show in the future. To me, it was just a matter of, it was something we could be more formal that we gave back to the event.
And again, if the resolution had been written differently or proposed differently, I might have voted differently, but I'm not voting to waive the fee.
Okay, and that was, I usually put yes or no on discussion. I noted that as an offer. There was no change. Okay, with that said, now that we're warmed up to pass resolutions, we've got a couple. These site plan deposits, let me give you a little background. Staff doing some homework. We've been, this year, doing a lot of trying to clean up accounts, clean up debt accounts, close accounts that have been lingering from projects that were long since done. One of the other things that came about were, as you can see, projects as old as 1998, where we had deposits and nothing had been done. Why the urgency if this has been sitting since 1998? The urgency is, we also discovered, the bank is about to turn these over to the state as unclaimed funds. And all these companies in the town and developers would lose that. Were they negligent? Was their accounting a little lax? Possibly. I've had one comment from one that said, gee, we thought the town would tell us. I said, well, no, we wait for, the request to get it back, you think you're done, and then we do the review, make sure everything doesn't work that way. Either way, to prevent these from being turned back to the state and part of the comptroller's unclaimed funds pool, we need to act on these now to get this stuff moving and get that money out of there before it's lost. They've all been reviewed, as you'll see. They're pretty stereotypical but each is important to each of those businesses. So that's my general for this next list. And if we could take Resolution 290, 3% site plan return deposit for Champlain Center South Site Plan Phase 1 Amendment 1998. Ricky?
Whereas the town of Plattsburgh has been notified by TD Bank that they are completing a periodic review of customer files in order to comply with state unclaimed property laws for inactivity savings accounts beyond 3 years. Whereas the town planning department, accounting departments have researched and reviewed projects listed by TD Bank as inactive, and whereas the town of Plattsburgh planning department has reviewed the Champlain Center South Site Plan Phase 1 Amendment of 1998 project file, and whereas Champlain Center Site Plan Phase 1 Amendment 1998 has on file with the town of Plattsburgh a 3% deposit for construction of the project in the original amount of $7,382 plus accrued interest. Whereas the Codes Department has issued a project of certification of occupancy, and whereas the Planning Department has requested a 3% deposit in the amount of $7,382 plus accrued interest to date be returned. Now therefore be resolved, supervisors hereby authorized and directed to said release of deposit in the amount of $7,382 plus accrued interest to date. And it be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be forwarded by the Planning Department Secretary with the return of the deposit to Pioneer Development Company and the Accounting Department.
Motion.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Renadat, Mr. Cashman, second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Mark Manick?
Yes.
Michael Cashman? George Renaud?
Yes.
Bernie Bassel?
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 291, 3% site plan return deposit for Plattsburgh Distributing Site Plan 2002.
Whereas the town of Plattsburgh has been notified by TD Bank that they are completing a periodic review of customer files in order to comply with the state unclaimed property laws for inactivity of savings account beyond 3 years. Whereas the town planning and accounting departments have researched and reviewed the project listed by TD Bank as being inactive. Whereas the town planning department has reviewed the Plattsburgh Distributing Site Plan 2002 project file, and the Plattsburgh Distributing Site Plan 2002 has on file with the town of Plattsburgh a 3% deposit for construction of the project in the original amount of $470.04 plus accrued interest. Whereas the Codes Department issued a certification of occupancy on January 8, 2003. Whereas the Planning Department has requested that the 3% deposit in the amount of $470.04 plus accrued interest to date be returned. Now therefore be resolved, the supervisor hereby authorized and directed to release the said deposit in the amount of $470.04 plus accrued interest to date. And it be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be forwarded by the Planning Department Secretary with the return of the deposit to Plattsburgh Distributing and to be provided to the accounting office.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Cashman, second. Mr. Wood, any discussion?
Just in general on these, right now, every time one gets finished, we automatically get the thing and it goes out right away because we contact them. These were way back on totally different accounts was on, and that's why they haven't gotten done until now.
I'd like to think so.
I was just gonna ask that question.
We just didn't have time.
Couldn't get to it.
Do we in fact have a process in place?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
They're all, I talked to the planning department today that they do call and say, oh, if you finish the project, you should be send us an email saying that you're finished and want to and they haven't want the deposit back.
Most of these, even after they give a certificate of occupancy, in a great many cases, that deposit is held for a certain period of time beyond the certificate of deposit.
Oh, yeah.
Might be held for a year.
There could still be landscaping work that hasn't
Correct.
been done. They're in the building.
Correct.
It isn't just being in the building.
Yeah. But there's a time period at which that is satisfied, and then they should be notified, and he should be.
And that's what they're doing now.
Reflecting on Tom's comment, the general comment, it's the same planning department with one exception, but one of the things that's different from about 2006 on is we have a monthly department head meeting, we have a monthly planning and codes meeting, and people are communicating a little different than they did then. And it facilitates some activity.
And I just wanted to note that these were prior to that.
And I thought you did, thank you. Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manick,
Yes.
Michael Cassidy.
Yes.
George Linda.
Yes.
Ernie Bass.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 292, 3% site plan deposit for Champlain Center South Site Plan 2003.
Whereas the town of Plattsburgh has been notified by TD Bank that they are completing a periodic review of customer files in order to comply with the state unclaimed property laws for inactivity of savings account beyond 3 years. Whereas the town planning and accounting departments have researched and reviewed the project listed by TD Bank as being inactive. And whereas the town planning department has reviewed the Champlain Center South Associates Site Plan 2003 project file, whereas Champlain Center South Associates Site Plan 2003 has on file with the town of Plattsburgh a 3% deposit for construction of the project in the original amount of $1,984.23 plus accrued interest. Whereas the code department has issued a project a certification of occupancy on February 19, 2004. Whereas the planning department has requested a 3% deposit in the amount of $1,984.23 plus accrued interest to date be returned. Now therefore be resolved, supervisors hereby authorized and directed to release of said deposit in the amount of $1,984.23 plus accrued interest to date. And it be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be forwarded by the planning department secretary with the return of deposit to Champlain Center South Associates and to the accounting department.
Motion.
So moved.
Mr. Renner, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manick,
Yes.
Michael Cassidy.
Yes.
George Linda.
Yes.
Ernie Bass.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 293, 3% subdivision return deposit for County Village subdivision 2003.
Whereas the town of Plattsburgh has been notified by TD Bank that they are completing a periodic review of customer files in order to comply with state unclaimed property laws for inactivity of savings account beyond 3 years. Whereas the town of Plattsburgh planning department and accounting departments have researched and reviewed projects listed by TD Bank as inactive. And whereas the town of Plattsburgh planning department has reviewed the Country Village subdivision 2003 project file. Whereas Country Village subdivision 2003 has on file with the town of Plattsburgh a 3% deposit for construction of the project in the original amount of $894 plus accrued interest. And whereas the planning department has requested that the 3% in deposit of $894 plus accrued interest to date be returned. Now therefore be resolved, the supervisor hereby authorized and directed to release of said deposit in the amount of $894 plus accrued interest to date. And it be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be forwarded by the planning department secretary with the return of deposit to Country Village and to the accounting department.
Motion.
So moved.
Mr. Manick, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Gerard Renadette,
Yes.
Martin Mannix,
Yes.
Michael Cashman,
Yes.
Ernie Bass.
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 294, 3% subdivision return deposit for MJ Boynton Builders subdivision 2004.
Whereas the town of Plattsburgh has been notified by TD Bank that they are completing a periodic review of customer files in order to comply with the state unclaimed property laws for inactivity of savings account beyond 3 years. Whereas the town planning department and accounting department have researched and reviewed projects listed by TD Bank as inactive. Whereas the town of Plattsburgh planning department has reviewed the MJ Boynton Builder subdivision 2004 project file. And whereas MJ Boynton Builder subdivision 2004 has on file with the town of Plattsburgh a 3% construction for their project in the original amount of $1,485.76 plus accrued interest. Whereas the planning department has requested the 3% deposit in the amount of $1,485.76 plus accrued interest to date be returned. Now therefore be resolved, supervisor hereby authorized and directed to release the deposit in the amount of $1,485.76 plus accrued interest to date. And it be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be forwarded by the planning department secretary with the return of deposit to M.J. Boynton Builders and to the accounting department.
Motion. Mr. Woods, second.
Second.
Mr. Renner, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Mark Sepiti?
Yes.
Michael Cashman? George Rudenbeck?
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez?
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 295, 266, site plan deposit for Lake Champlain Transportation, site plan 2005.
Whereas Town of Plattsburgh has been notified by TD Bank that they are completing a periodic review of customer files in order to comply with the state unclaimed property laws for inactivity of savings account beyond 3 years. Excuse me. Whereas the Town of Plattsburgh Planning and Accounting Departments have researched and reviewed projects listed by TD Bank as being inactive. And whereas the Town of Plattsburgh Planning Department has reviewed the Lake Champlain Transportation File Project. And whereas Lake Champlain Transportation has on file with the Town of Plattsburgh a 3% construction for their project in the original amount of $3,000 plus accrued interest. Whereas the Codes Department issued a project certification of occupancy on December 12, 2005, where the planning department has requested that a 3% deposit in the amount of $3,000 plus accrued interest to date now be returned. Now therefore be resolved, the supervisor hereby authorized and directed to release of said deposit in the amount of $3,000 plus accrued interest to date. And it be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be forwarded by the planning department secretary with a return to Lake Champlain Transportation and to the accounting department.
Motion.
So moved.
Mr. Mannix, second.
Second.
Mr. Renner, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Mark Mannix?
Yes.
Michael Cashman?
Yes.
George Rudenbeck?
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez?
Yes, resolution carries. Resolution 296, a little different tempo on this. Award for base sewer slip lining contract 2014.
Whereas Resolution 14-252 authorized the establishment of a capital project for the base slip sewer lining, and all bids were received and were opened on September 4, 2014. And whereas the bids were received from Brandon Construction Corporation, Arnold Construction, and Precision Industrial Maintenance. And whereas Scott Stoddard, Director of Water and Wastewater, Ronald LaBerge, Civil Engineer of LaBerge Engineering Consulting Group, Deputy Supervisor, and the Town Clerk have reviewed all bids as received. Therefore be resolved that the contract for base sewer slip lining 2014 be awarded to the low bidder, Arrow Construction, 51 Powder Mill Bridge Road, Kingston, New York, 12401, in the amount of $156,500. And it be further resolved that the town board approve the contract as recommended, and it be further resolved that payment be made payable from the 2014 capital budget account, and that a copy of this resolution be given to the Director of Water and Wastewater Department and to the Finance Manager.
A motion.
So moved.
Mr. Renner, second. Mr. Wood, any discussion?
Yes, the 156,500. This says it's per unit, so it could be more than that if we need more, and it could be less if we need less, I'm assuming.
I was just looking at that, Tom, and I was gonna bring that to the attention of folks.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's right there. As such, the final contract cost will increase or decrease depending upon the actual quantities required for, the construction.
So what, we just then pass another resolution to?
Well, you may have a change order. One of the concerns is this particular slip lining takes place out at Bombardier, and they have to do some trenching. What the trenching is going to involve is not known at this point until they can actually get in there. In an ideal and perfect world, and this company believes they can simply run the slip lining through without significant trenching. Bombardier is not very interested in trenching taking place near their tracks, that will cause them to be shut down because of the high voltage for a while. So there's some concern about what ultimately will be required, and how well that's going to go with the, I mean, it's in the right of way, so, end of the day, you play that card, I guess.
Did all the other bids have similar language?
I have to say to the best of my knowledge,
Marty just pointed out to me, there's quite a discrepancy.
there is a huge discrepancy.
Between 409 and 106, yeah.
That's what begs the question. I mean, were the other bidding so high because they didn't have the little addendum on there that said, this is a unit price and it's subject to change depending on whether or not the sun comes up?
I was involved in some of that conversation. My takeaway is, as I mentioned earlier, they were confident that the job would be able to be done in that range. We oftentimes get a bidder who throws a bid out, but they didn't sharpen their pencil.
Well, yeah, but I think that might be,
I mean, that,
They
You're
really
getting-
I mean, if you look at the next,
18,000 versus 228.
but if you look at the other two bids, they're relatively close.
They are.
yeah, but they're most likely
We've got one
to
that's
have the
way out.
the contingency clause of, this could get pretty ugly.
But the bid, when you look at the bids didn't vary on quantity, they varied on price.
Per unit.
No, they varied on price, on the quantity, there was only, excuse me, there's a big difference on point repair.
That's the big difference.
Yeah, there's $210,000 difference.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that way
but the other thing is the precision didn't even bid.
Right.
Apparently. Because they have 0 on the last category and on the 17B category, they have.
Yeah, they said no bid on that issue.
Which means they probably can't do it, or,
But even not doing that, they still are higher. That is unusual.
well, it was reviewed by the engineer, right? That's his signature.
Well, I'm sure he reviewed it and he said that's a low bid, which it is.
If we had a bid of 409 and 390 and then 156, I'd be a little alarmed also. I think the exception is more with the high.
But I go by the letter that the Burge sent, you find the stated qualifications of the contract to be satisfactory.
I don't think the qualifications are what are in question, Tom. And I don't think that the numbers per se are off. It is the fact that they are, using a CYA clause, to make sure that, anybody can become a low bidder when you're saying, by the way, this could run you a little bit more money, and not giving you the scope of what it could go up
And if
to.
I remember correctly, Brannon was bidding, they were going to have to excavate, they were going to have to replace, not be able to slip line even, and they went in with the worst possible scenario. After doing their site visit, the others didn't feel that was the case.
You get $210,000 of leeway between the low bid and the high bid. In other words,
Yeah.
the low bid, it can come in higher based on what they run into, but you get $210,000.
But Marty, there's no safeguard in here to keep
No.
us from having to pay that additional $210,000. My recommendation would be that we reject all bids and go back out to bid. Something
Or
that
do
we-
you want to first have some of your questions or concerns responded to? Let's not go back to ground zero without.
Can we do that? Can we do that without affecting the bidding process?
Yeah, you're not changing the bidding process, you want clarity on the work that's going to be performed especially with the concern about not addressing the point repair item
But then
17D.
it gives the low bidder the opportunity to come back and say, okay, I'll throw a maximum bid in of this amount.
Can't change the bid. You can't change
Well,
the
first of all, we reject any and all of this.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I just feel very uncomfortable.
But I think
with that.
Bernie's right, why don't we just look into it, and if we're not satisfied, we reject it.
I personally, I would like to see the sheets that, for the two other individuals, if they use that similar language. If they also use that similar language.
But I think we also need someone to give us a little more detail about the ramifications of that
Yeah.
language.
I'd like
It's not my
Scott, I'd like
expertise.
Scott and LaBerge to both tell us what they think of these bids. We don't have, we've got sterile comments.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, Brandon partnered with the guy, Canyon Pipeline, the guy that's doing it now out there, partnered with him to do this bid. The slip lining company that's doing the job out there partnered with him to do the excavation and stuff that they weren't qualified to do.
Or do you have a motion to table it?
I'll second the motion to table.
Advise us that we,
Was this scheduled to be done this year?
Yes,
So if we go back out to bid again, it's not gonna get done this year.
probably not.
but we don't necessarily have to go back out to bid.
No, I know, we don't.
You just have questions you need answered.
Yeah,
We're gonna table it for
I
a
just
week.
want to know the whole scenario.
We have a motion to table by Mike, a second Gerard. Any discussion on the motion to table? All in favor of the motion to table, indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We all agree. We'll declare the motion tabled, and we'll come back next week. Now, I don't know how you want to handle the feedback to your questions. Are you all able to contact Scott? Do you want me to do something and request from him and LaBerge to give us answers to those questions? I think I got a grasp of them in general. Have them do that right away, and then you can get your own dialogue from your
You want me
comfortable.
to go get, he sent me the packet back today with his remarks. You want that?
With whose remarks?
RJ's?
That would be extremely helpful. I mean, we still tabled it, but if we can get copies of those now, then we'll have more action, more feedback for action on Monday.
In your interim, you want me to read Resolution 14297 in the interest of football game?
I would be honored to have you do that. Resolution 297, letter of resignation of Mr. Stoupinger. That's my erosion.
Whereas Mr. Michael Stoudinger, maintenance worker 2 from the Water and Wastewater Department, has submitted a letter of resignation from his position in the town of Plattsburgh effective September 12, 2014. Therefore, be it resolved to accept and place on file Mr. Stoudinger's letter of resignation. And be it further resolved that the supervisor send a letter on behalf of the town board thanking Mr. Stoudinger for his service to the town of Plattsburgh and wish him well in his future endeavors. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the finance manager and a copy placed in Mr. Stoudinger's personal file.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Tom, second, Mike. This is the same thing we have.
Was it?
Yeah. We don't want the particulars from the company. We need the interpretation from the engineer. Any discussion on 297? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Mannix,
Yes.
Michael Cashman.
Yes.
Gerard Renadette, yes. Burton Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. Tom made the motion, Mike seconded it. All in favor. Now, as I've done a couple times, and I've got a couple changes on the drafts, I want to walk through these a little bit with you. I don't see any minutes in my packet, I don't know if anyone else has.
Minutes are
them.
incorrect.
Well, what's,
Resolution 289.
okay, what about it?
It's the old resolution, it does not incorporate any of the changes that were made. You
I don't have that in front of me. Does anyone else have
don't
it?
have the resolution?
I don't have the minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in here.
What is not right with it?
Well, if you
Because the
recall,
one-
It doesn't mention the town of Plattsburgh in the 6th whereas, nor the additional comments about the highly
Yeah.
carcinogenic or whatever conditions. There was
Tom, would you
language-
just make notes on there and get them to me?
Okay.
You said you were gonna give it to, you had it written down.
I did. I don't have that in front of me. Thank you. Is the one you're giving me, this is the draft one? I don't,
That was,
How
then
could this even be
there were
worked?
some changes made in it, but you can basically see what you were having.
this one doesn't have the vote on it.
I have one, I have, but he never changed
It
it.
was carried.
I don't have exactly what.
Oh, you've got the original from, this isn't the minutes one.
No, I
Okay.
have from the
Okay.
event.
No, the one I'm concerned with is the one with the minutes, if it isn't right. I thought that was
And
correct.
This is the one from the
The
minutes.
minutes one is not correct.
Okay, so maybe the new one didn't get in the minutes.
That's the minutes. And
Okay.
it's not in there about the,
Well, that may be true. I called up today, told what was wrong, and she said she,
I changed the one from the night we passed it. I'm assuming that got in the minutes. I don't have the minutes, I haven't seen them. If it didn't get there, just give me your copy of the minutes with the changes and we'll change it.
there's the
It
minutes.
may be changed, but it maybe just didn't get to the minutes.
Those are the minutes.
All right, but you didn't write on here what you want.
No, because you wrote on it the wording that you wanted. You put it in, but you wrote it in, and it isn't exactly the wording that I have.
Okay,
So I can tell you what I had, but that isn't necessarily what we passed, okay?
tell me what you think should be on here.
Okay, sixth, whereas.
Go ahead.
Whereas extensive train loads of this material routinely travel through the city of Plattsburgh, I asked you to add the town. So you said
And
you
the town of Plattsburgh.
and the town of Plattsburgh, but you
I
said
thought
you
that was
didn't want
done.
to do that, so you put something at the end.
Which shouldn't have been, and the town of Plattsburgh, both densely populated areas in our region.
That's what I thought, but Bernie changed it to
Tom,
say,
I'm getting really nervous. You mean that you and I are on the same wavelength?
yeah,
Oh, God, this is.
it's tough, isn't it? You have to deal with that.
Okay, keep it going.
But
What else?
But you said something like through the city, you left through the city of populated, densely populated area in a region as well as the town of Plattsburgh. I think you put something in like that.
Just go back to the tapes that we have.
It doesn't matter, just tell me what you want. We agreed to it. If it didn't get in if the changes didn't get in the minutes, we changed the minutes. That's what this is about.
Your
That's
notes have what we did.
And I don't have my notes in front of me. I'll go back and get them,
Well,
but
that's what I mean.
let me just make
I
sure.
just don't want to approve the minutes tonight. We'll approve them.
We're not approving tonight.
You know.
We don't do
So-
that
so
until next week.
You can check that and find it.
So
and
Let's
then
go back and check that whereas against your notes.
what else do you think should be changed on this
Well,
particular?
after the last, whereas crude oil like that coming from Baku is known to be also highly flammable, contain elevated concentration of benzene and potent carcinogen. And whereas the extraction, waste produced, and
That's right.
burning of this oil further accelerates climate disruption, be it resolved. Now, you have that, and I know you have that on your copy.
I know I did. I wrote it. I don't know why it's not on here. I'm just concerned that maybe the old one got put in the minutes instead of the change.
That's
Because
right.
I did the change on my computer. But let me have them again, then I recall that. Is there anything else?
No, there was, let's see, was there
There
some
was-
correct
There was three
wording?
changes, you're right.
I know.
What was the other? Somebody else made a change.
I'll check my notes. That would be, you don't need to beat it to death. I just thought you knew, Tom.
Well, see, I made all my original things, then I changed it, and then when you said that, I said, okay, I'll agree
Yeah,
to that.
the two you pointed out aren't on here, and I clearly recalled it. I just think that the one I changed didn't get in the minutes.
Okay,
It's that simple, but I want to
so
be sure.
anyway, so for the minutes next week, I'll be checking this again to make sure.
Just make sure you do it tomorrow when I send them to you at 6:15 a.m.
You don't come in at 6:15 again.
Oh, you're right. And I'm not going to do them tonight before.
That's correct.
So,
I know that.
But we will do that tomorrow, so just make sure you take a look. And let me know what you think. Beyond the minutes, building and grounds, you've got the report.
just an aside on that, Bernie, Mike and I are gonna contact Art, because as members of the safety committee, I think that we should be more involved with the accident reports. we've asked for remedial action taken, or corrective action taken, but
And we got that once.
some of it's become, yeah, it's almost become a joke.
Corrective
Well,
action.
he's got corrective action.
Well, number 3 though, corrective action needs better body mechanics.
And number one, on the first item listed, in my opinion,
There should be a note,
there should be a note in the file.
you betcha. And, but
That's-
that, you know,
that's a-
that should not be Art's decision to make, it should be the safety committees. So we're going to, Mike and I are gonna be more attentive to the fact that we need to have regular safety committee meetings, sit down with Art, go over the activities and accidents that have taken place over the course of a 30-day period before we get reports like this, and make recommendations as this is what we wanna see done. So, I just wanted to let you know, we
Good.
did talk about that, and we're going to follow through.
I've also got a packet for you with your name on it. It might still be on my desk. The chamber has a series of safety training sessions coming up that I want to have that conversation with Art, but also with General Highway, Stormwater Sewer, and so on. And I had Debbie make a copy for each of you to
All right.
see what training's being offered, that there may be some as a result of your reviews. You want to make real sure that some people get to this.
Yeah.
And maybe it isn't just the department head, it might be the people that seem to keep having an accident, an incident, I should say. So I commend you for doing that, thank you. That would be very helpful. But before you leave, make sure I get that too.
All right.
I thought I had thrown it in here, I guess not. So I look forward to what happens with that. The next is the Codes and Zoning Monthly Report. And stop me if you want, I'm just gutting through until I see something I've got different. Then we have our highway. And I do plan some further discussion on that truck issue. Planning. We have a water report. Multi-jurisdictional. You've got a draft. Since this draft was written, I've looked it over and I've got some more changes. A lot of them are just typo-grammatical that need to take place. This is an annual activity. But there'll be more changes on that already. The next one on Kevin Cosgrove, there's a typo in his name. Deborah picked that up. She crossed that off mine. It's not Cosgrove, so there'll be a change on yours for that. The next one, the advertisement, the budget work sessions. I made some changes. We're going to change.
Just for a sec,
Yes.
on the appointment, the assessment review. That's a
Yeah.
5-year term?
I haven't looked back at the chart.
There's not 5 members on that, is there?
Offhand, I don't remember.
I think there's 3.
I can't. No, there's more than 3. Oh,
I
gosh.
think there's,
Yeah, there's more than 3, for sure.
This is the one that meets once a year,
once a year.
Board of Assessment Review?
Yeah.
I don't know the term is 5 years. I know that they're 5 years for planning, zoning, but I'm not sure about this one. Just check
I'll
it.
check on it, yep. I will check on that, let me make a note. We'll check at that and I'll get back to you. I'll just share that with everybody. The budget work session from the one you had, I didn't like the language in that. I did that one the end of day today. And we'll change it also to reflect the hours of 3 to 6. I'll make sure with Pat, he feels comfortable that that's enough time. We will budget after 5. The departments that tend to be the ones that have more impact as far as on the budgeting.
Bernie, should we make note that the tentative budget should go online in that resolution?
Yes, it is.
We put it online, we can put it in the resolution, would make a lot of sense.
You know, I just think, to the follow-through of, as soon as it's getting registered with the, or filed, I should say, with the town clerk, that I think
And
it's
placed
also.
online.
Yep,
You mean on the town's website?
yeah.
That's in the resolution.
That it goes on the website, the tentative budget?
Listen,
Yes, posted on the town
It
website.
says, result of town clerk, I noticed.
We're gonna post the meetings.
Copy posted on clerk's bulletin board and have the notice posted on the town's website.
But that's referencing the budget meetings,
I'm talking
not
about
the
the-
tentative budget.
I'm actually talking about the tentative budget should be going online.
Oh, yeah, that was on too.
Absolutely.
Why, is there a resolution?
It's good to put in the resolution, we're creating the,
Yeah.
and the message gets out to people that might look at this, it's going to be online. Oh, that's a good idea. So we'll play with that a little more and get back as well. The next one, RFP for uniform rental. You've got that in front of you.
Is that premature when we haven't done our negotiations?
It would certainly impact them because that is a negotiated item. It might be good to know what the options are though going into negotiations.
But it might be better to wait until we've been through negotiations before we go to bid.
But if we put something in negotiations that a bidder might not comply with, and we would like, we can't negotiate it. Go as doing an addendum, I guess. But I don't know, I think it's a little of the chicken and the egg. I don't think it's going to hurt to see what the options are prior to negotiations, then we can bring it in if we see something we like.
When is the contract finished? Current contract?
I believe it has expired. So we're wise to be taking some direction.
So, we probably want to go ahead with this then, and as you said, we could.
Yeah, it's going to take time to get the information and time to review it. And I guess just relative to negotiations, I have a meeting with Rachel this week also. I may have something to report back to you next Monday, so you know what we do. This next one, I've got a change on that on the dump truck.
One in Douglas County?
Yes. The other bid, piggyback bid had expired. So Scott rewrote this one today.
So this is a bid they had with the state, right?
The piggyback bid, but this is not a state contract. They do not have vehicles on state contract right now. We think we know why, but I dare not say it in public. Again, this is a draft.
And it brings up the idea or the suggestion that if we piggyback on this, why can't Clinton County write their contract so that we can piggyback on Clinton County?
Anybody, as long as
We can piggyback on anybody.
as long as they write their agreement and their resolution that it is able to be piggybacked.
And why do we have this county, why do we have the county do that?
Piggybackable.
They don't do
Piggyback.
that?
Have we ever had any? No, I haven't seen anything like that.
It's similar with the SALT agreement that they strike, but it's different than piggyback because once you've written it that way and you've complied, anybody can jump on it.
Yeah, and if they read that, because, here we got buying a truck over here, another fleet vehicle over here. If we have a chance to piggyback on some of these, we might get a better price and.
And you're going to get the bit better price when you piggyback with Syracuse, Buffalo.
I agree with you on that.
Rochester.
I agree with you on that.
Not
But when
Clinton
there's
County.
not those alternatives, then we,
But we're also guilty because we don't tend to write every resolution we do to make it such that other municipalities can piggyback off us. I mean, it's a mold and a habit that we haven't quite changed. Sale of surplus equipment. I've got that's changed. I guess I don't have copies for you. The change is under planning, I believe I have 2 more copiers that have been unearthed that did not make it to this resolution. I don't know if you really want those details, but we do have a HP Design Jet printer. It's the real large floor model they've used in the past for projects, and another image prograph Canon printer. Haven't been used in a while. Deborah's been really shaking the trees to try to get people to pay attention and equipment they're not using, get it out there. as you know, there's one item on here I do want to have some conversation about before it gets any farther. We would be adding 2 more items to this draft. Everybody comfortable with that? I don't have on the agenda, it came in very late today, but the monthly report for Parks and Rec. We did get the report. So we can have that, and add that to the list as well. Our Parks and Rec did a nice job on Saturday, participating with setting up activities for the Saturday program. And that was good. That's what I have on my agenda. Anyone has any other thoughts, comments?
I'll just toss one little quick thing
Second
out.
quarter?
Because there was lots of conversation about that on Plattsburgh. There were a variety of events and activities besides Halsey's Corner at the mall. The Clucky Rooster contest actually was featured there and continues to be. There was also and continues to be a wonderful quilt display, and actually one of our residents from Katie'ville has a quilt there, so I would strongly encourage you to check it out. So,
Those are small.
yeah.
Our panels that have been in the hallway are on display with the quilts as well. They've been in there since last week. We'll be there for a while. The Lakes to Locks. Okay.
So we have a lot of activities going on.
There, if you look at the agenda, there's an enormous amount, 7 days a week, day and night. This week coming, Crab
Went to that
Island.
play, though, that was good.
I mean, I guess I'll just refer you to the paper unless you want me to send something. We have a number of activities on Thursday, including some that are actually being housed on the island, some activities that are by Clinton Community College. I even heard there may be fireworks that evening as well, so, but there is a lot going on out there. And if you're there anytime, I think you got a chance to show. This year there'll be, maybe one of you know more about the old ships that will be having mock battle taking place in the bay, different than what they've done before with that reenactment. Huge parade Saturday. Yours truly will be there. I encourage you as well to join in on that.
Are you providing excellent seating for us?
Well, my seating will be pretty excellent. I can't guarantee anything
I'm on the curb.
for you. But yes, there's a
We're
lot.
gonna throw you candy though.
Yeah, well, I don't get too much of it, I'll tell you.
Okay, I'm going to call us adjourned at 7:32.
Again.
Drive safe.
Again.
8:30.
8:30.